Hello everyone, I'm Mike DeAngelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Brink by Splash Damage. Every year there are a few games that come out of nowhere and end up on your radar, and 2011 has had several of these new titles. These are what looks like various companies' franchise Kickstarters, as if they're expecting to draw a crowd and keep them there. These are the games that get a whole hell of a lot of advertising space, because developers and publishers want you to see and remember that they're coming out. Brink is one of the games that has been on my mind since E3 2010. There wasn't a good deal of gameplay to show, but the promises of a parkour-style, objective-based shooter was beyond tempting. Now that Brink has made it to stores, can we safely say it vaulted its way to success, or did it become tripped up in all its ambitions? A lot of the focus on Brink, it seemed to be on its multiplayer. With that in mind, I wasn't expecting much from the game's plot, and because of that, I was pleasantly surprised. The basic gist of the story is a semi-futuristic biblical recurrence of the Great Flood. Instead of a giant boat built by Noah to save his family and the animals of the earth, a utopian city is constructed that is assumed to be able to save humanity. The city, called the Ark, doesn't hold up to its legacy forever. Over the course of time, two factions split, each with what could be construed as admirable goals. The security forces believe that their city's well-being relies on the hard labor and work of its people. The resistance forces feels like slaves, and wants nothing more than to escape the floating fortress. Individual scenarios each have their own plot point as well, and are all impressive, given the genre. At its core, Brink is a shooter, but it has evolved beyond that, attempting to create a system of balance that relies on movement and planning just as much as sheer firepower. The first thing that you'll notice when playing Brink is that a lot relies on how you navigate through the Ark. Your character can vault, slide, and climb a vast collection of areas, and perfecting that need can oftentimes be the reason that you outlive your enemies. Unfortunately, this parkour element is far too ambitious and ends up feeling tremendously unpolished. There's a severe lack of intuition, and you can find yourself endlessly making mistakes that seem more like an error in game design than foolishness on the part of the player. A system of cooperative balance is applied with a generous amount of refinement. There are 4 different classes that you can perform as, including soldiers, engineers, medics, and operatives, each with their own skills and special tactics. Despite the interesting mix, the strategy is only halfway decent, as battles are often over before you've even realized they've begun. Damage is incurred so wildly that you barely have a chance to gain your bearings before you're on the ground, begging for a medic to come your way. This wouldn't be so bad except for the fact that the main point of the game is its objective-based play. When every few steps you end up severely battered again, it gets a little difficult to make your way to the next target that you're supposed to blow up. The AI can also be ridiculously pitiful. Seeing a swarm of enemies mow down your squad time and again does nothing but enrage you, while seeing your timer countdown depresses you beyond what you think might be possible from a game. While we were waiting for it, one of the most impressive things about Brink seemed to be the style. It seemed to have a kind of cartoonish Borderlands look, but embellished the lighter-hearted side of things. FMVs looked brilliant, highlighting the developers' choices. The actual game is practically dismal. Comparing the mission intros to the gameplay never shocked me more. Brink looks like something you could have played on the PlayStation 2. Luckily, the lack of graphics doesn't exactly detract from the game itself. The aforementioned FMVs, on the other hand, do a fantastic job of bringing you into the story. Characters feel like they have some presence, which only highlights how disappointing things remain in-game. The music and sound effects are generally solid hits, but it's the various voice actors who steal the show. It feels like an ensemble piece, perfect for what the Ark represents. As I said before, the major draw of Brink is its multiplayer. It might surprise you to hear that it suffers immensely from lag. It really can't be described alone, so I'll let you bask in the awesome effects you see here. Keep in mind, I don't have lag issues with any other games on this system. Luckily, there is more to show for the game than that. Cooperative play against computers works well, oddly enough. You still have the inane, messy gunplay and parkour, but at least you can play it. Upgrading your weapons and abilities also lends itself to some enjoyment. As you complete missions, you can assign points to increase your usefulness spread out across each of the classes. You can also design your character more as you level up and unlock articles of clothing and equipment. It's always a shame to get your hopes up. Brink was a game that, a year ago, looked like it could have been spectacular. This game was released with a good amount of glaring faults, however. You can tell that Splash Damage has a good game lying somewhere beneath the rubble, but it may take some time before patches can pull it out of its rut, if they ever do. That's Entertainment awards Brink a score of 7 out of 10.